to another episode of Model Base Alpha. This time we're delving deep into the back of the stash. Going to be making the spine boosters that were produced by Small Artworks round about mid-2000s, so I think 2004, maybe 2005. Got a couple of these, and I love Small Artworks. Produce some fantastic kits and add-ons, and they really were small works of art. So what we're going to do is open both of these up, because even though these are great castings, occasionally, you know, there's some work needs to be done. But what I'm hoping with opening both of these up can sidestep that and get onto building something without too much work. And let's take a look. Most of Small Artworks were usually cast in this kind of creamy off-white. This is actually the first time I've seen anything other than that. So what's included? We have the main section of the booster, engine bells for the rear, side tanks, tanks that go on top, the underneath, more tanks again for the side, and some pill-sized tanks and engine adapters, holders, whatever you want to call them, plus some instructions and some small sheet of decals. Not sure how well they're going to work. They look pretty good, but these are really cleanly cast. Some slight cleanup, which is mentioned here in the instructions, that needs taking off, which is probably from the casting process. But otherwise, the surface detail, especially on these, is actually very, very good. So take a look at these green ones here, see if there's any difference. Once again, same parts. Perhaps see the detail a little better on these green ones. Again, this needs removing. This needs removing from this tank. Small bit of flash. But otherwise, if you can see the detail, and the instructions, and no decals in these, which is probably okay, seeing as these look okay in this set. So as I mentioned, Small Artworks did lots of various add-ons and kits from Space 1999, as well as a few other things. So what we'll be doing is getting to work on putting this together. So I'll be back shortly. So the parts have been primed and cleaned up, and time to get on with some assembly. First part will be these top tanks, making sure of course that they go the right way. There's a slight detail where they narrow in towards the center section, so they both meet in the center, so make sure that they go in the right way. Just using regular CA Loctite, which I had on hand, which seems to work well on this resin. And do the sections that hold the main engine bells. These are at a slightly odd angle in that they go up, or angled up, but they're also angled outward very slightly. So see if we can get those looking somewhat decent. And give that time to set up and apply the rest of the tanks. Now, applied the sets of tanks down the side, and in addition to the primer, gave it a top coat. Was recommended to try Insignia White AS20 Tamiya. Yeah, not sure quite how white this is supposed to be. Despite giving it several thin layers, seemed to come out more grey, not even a light grey. So yeah, it's almost like the wrong top was put on this, so I might buy another one just to make sure. Yeah, can't see it being the wrong top, but it's certainly more grey than I was expecting, so took that down with some very, very light passes of white, and I think that's probably achieved a more reasonable look. So the next bit is to paint the rear sections that attach to the engine bells, and these are normally listed as either oxide, red oxide, or a hull red. Do have a few already in my collection. Have Mission Models primer, which says oxide primer, and there goes the phone. MMS 004 red oxide primer, which comes out as, I guess, a red oxide. But I also have this Humbrol matte 153, which I quite like. I also have a Tamiya XF9, which lists itself as a hull red. Matching these against the Blu-ray without actually mixing my own paints, which is at this point something I'm not really prepared to do. I'd like to get this finished. I think I'm going to go with the Humbrol. It is an enamel, but I think the colour's the closest match. This Tamiya turns out it looks like it's quite grey, and the Mission Models red oxide's kind of dull. If you actually look at the episode, it's actually quite a bright colour. So in terms of how much this is kind of the off-white, I think adding in a splash of colour isn't going to be a bad thing. So rather than paint all this and boring you with that, get that done and be back shortly. So approaching the end of construction, just got a few more steps to go. Before I do that though, I've applied a gloss coat, and the next thing I'll be doing is applying this small selection of decals. As they're fairly old, certainly not brave enough to do that on camera, so take a short break, apply them, and hopefully I'll be back in a moment with some applied decals. Well, there were several F words in the application. Frustrating, futile, to name but two. And 2 is also the number of decals applied. Had a bad feeling about them, so certainly glad I didn't commit that to filming, as they all basically disintegrated. So unless I can find anything in a stash somewhere, that is the sum total. So going to let those dry and put a matte coat on and finish the build. So I think we're in the home straight now, so be back again shortly. So after applying the top 2 decals, it was looking a bit sparse, so I raided the Eagle 4 kit by Round 2 MPC and used the decals for their spine booster, some of which had to be cut down a little bit, but overall I think they look pretty good. Didn't use absolutely everything, so just need to finish off putting the kit together. Just some final assembly. So going to finish this off, put the engine bells on and the last few remaining pieces, and I'll be back with some final thoughts. So here's a view of the completed kit. I think it turns into a nice little model. It will of course fit on any of the Warp Kit Eagles, which also means it'll fit on any of the 1612 Eagles. I think it's actually slightly more detailed than the one that comes with the 1612 version. You can still pick these kits up occasionally on eBay. They seem to go for around $50 US, which isn't too bad considering that they originally retailed for $39 US. So allowing for inflation, that's not too bad. The kit was available for quite a few years. Eventually Jim Small from Small Artworks stopped selling the kit, as it was later incorporated into MPC's Space 1999 Eagle Transporter Deluxe Edition, which also came with the lab pod. The only difference being is the clip that fits underneath was widened to allow for the slightly wider framework of the spine, but otherwise the exact detailing is exactly the same. So hope you enjoyed watching this. Many thanks for watching. Do have some more small artworks back of the stashes coming up, so hopefully see you then. Cheers.